Hello and welcome to my latest video. This one started off as a casual conversation on the Taverners Facebook group chat one night when one of the guys was doing an Audi Quattro and the suggestion was, oh, paint it red, paint it red. Well, he had a bit of difficulty with it and ended up painting it numerous times. So we all kind of took on the unofficial challenge of painting an Audi Quattro ashes to ashes style. So it's a pretty ropey example that I managed to acquire. As you can see, pretty well laden with rust on the inside. Whether it had been used in the bath or something, I'm not entirely sure. Just picking out the interior. It's a left-hand drive model, as quite commonly they are. But I do change it over to a right-hand drive because the dash isn't that complicated that it was a difficult thing to do. The screen is riveted in, so I'm just using a hot tube here and a blowtorch to warm it up and melt it around the area of the rivet and lift it out rather than try and drill it out. I've never had much success doing that, but this method seems to work quite well. So out she comes. It's very yellowed and I did do my best to clean it up, but it's not the greatest result, I must admit. I'd have been happier if it was rather clearer at the end of the job, but you can't win them all. So I'm just popping out the engine section, which has got the headlights attached to it as well. Headlights were broken and missing on this one, so I ended up having to replace them with some transparent plastic. Worked out pretty well. I'm just struggling to get the spring that holds the door mechanisms into place here. It's a little bit tight, but eventually with a bit of persuasion it does come out. I've just got to lift off this retaining bar here and then I can take the bonnet off and she's all ready for strip. Doors are a simple lift out after that. So we've given her a bath in the caustic soda and cleaned it up as much as reasonably possible. And I'm just in the throes here now using Milliput to fill in the holes in the spoiler, because this particular one had some kind of rally type lamps on it, which obviously I didn't need or want on the saloon version that I was trying to accomplish. So I've got the Milliput in. I've got a piece of plastic card at the back temporarily held in place to give the Milliput something to set off against, and it's just a gradual case of building it up and knocking it back until you've shaped it right with various tools to hand. There's no kind of right way or wrong way to tackle this. You've just got to shape it with whatever the best things you've got available to you until you're satisfied with the finish. One of the advantages of the Milliput is that you can kind of smooth it with a little bit of water on a brush, and it gets you closer to a finished result with not quite so much sanding to do at the end when you're doing your last bit of shaping. So we've got all of that done, and I've primed it in white, and now I'm just applying a little bit of the first bit of the troublesome red paint. This particular one's just Tamiya red, which seemed fairly close to the Mars red that they used on the one in the show. I was kind of happy enough with that. Usual thing, just build it up in nice light coats until you're satisfied with your covering. 2 or 3 light coats will usually do it. Bit cack-handed here, but this is the rear spoiler, and the side doors that I'm doing. Not exactly Spielberg levels of filming here, but you get the drift. And if you've watched a few of my videos, it's not as though seeing me swinging an airbrush about is an entirely new experience. The main body here on my Tamiya rotary base. It's quite a useful thing though. Having said that, I have had model spring off it and land on the floor once or twice, which I've been less than amused about. But again, building it up in nice light coats. So we're happy with the red finish. Just reaching a finishing coat on the roof there. I find this Tamiya quite satisfying paint to use. I didn't use it for the longest time. And I've just got the old iPad up there trying to mimic the interior. Went to quite a bit of trouble painting the interior and the seats. I don't really know why, because you can't see them that well on a small model like this, but it's just something I thought I'd enjoy doing. Doing the top of the doors and the handles. And a kind of say gunmetal metallic, which is the closest match that I could get in my pots of paints to what I could see of the interior colours. And applying the colour on the interior door cards there. I kind of mixed, it's a very odd green that they use, and I kind of just mixed one out of the colours that I'd got. And we're already putting Humpty back together again. Doors is a bit tricky lining up, but got there in the finish. And not really the best of fits on this particular model, but bit of perseverance and crude persuasion, and managed to get them into place. So hooking up the bonnet now. And there's a plain metal lug, which for some reason I didn't paint. I've got that many things on the table, I think I must have inadvertently forgotten to paint that. Just push the spring wire back in again. I've just eased one of the holes that holds it into place, because I'd managed to get quite a build up of paint in it. I'm using my sprue cutters for all the wrong things as usual. I hadn't quite managed to get the spring in far enough, so as usual I resorted to my usual tactic of psychology and violence, and that seemed to do it. What a troublesome pair of doors to fit on, really. So I'll pop the base back together. Once again, as I did a lot of unnecessary detail on the base of the car, but old habits die hard. Pop the spring on for the suspension. It did click back into place quite nicely, but I do apply a bit of super glue just to make sure. I'd hate to have to take it all apart again because the spring popped off. And just a blob of super and a quick hit with the zip kicker. And so just leave it there to set. Yeah, because that was going to happen. Always with the zip kicker, no patience. Pop the interior glass back in. It's still a bit yellow. It's kind of the best that I could do with it. I did try, but if anybody got any good tips for getting the yellow out of the yellowing out of the windscreens, I'd be very interested to hear them. Just a drop of super glue around the around where the rivet used to be. Drop the interior in. As I say, I fully detailed the interior for no reason other than I wanted to. And switched it over to right hand drive. I just had visions of the genuine character bellowing if he'd got out to have a left hand drive car. And over she goes. Just got to slip the engine moulding and the headlamps in there, which is a bit of a fiddle, but I got them in there. I'm happy with the door closing. So go forward and move the base, put the base on now. There are 4 rivets on this particular one onto a plastic base. I kept most of them intact, and again, like the spring for the suspension, it does clip into place. But I do put a bit of super glue on just to reinforce it. Didn't go too mad with it because I am hoping to acquire a better, clearer windscreen at a later date. So I'll put it in well enough to hold, and it'll sit in the cabinet nice until something better turns up. Oh, let it sit on its wheels. And just the spoiler to be glued on now. Bit of super glue. And on she goes. Okay, just going to apply the Audi decals on this one now. These were kindly provided by me for PJ from the DMC. He sent me a nice page of decals, but I only used a couple of them. I watched the pictures of the car from the show, and the only ones that I could find on the car were these ones on the door. There was no Quattro ones on the rear panels or anything like that, so I just left it at that. Sadly, the wheels aren't quite the same as the ones that used in the show, but they'll have to do. Just drying out the decal fix now with the cotton swab, smoothing it out. And I copied the registration number from the one on the program and made a nice sticker for the front number plate. Just a question of getting it on square now. Okay, happy enough with that. A little bit of detailing now for the rear lights. I always put a silver base coat on to the indicators and brake light sections. I think it helps the next coat of paint to pop a little bit. And of course on a red car you do want the red brake lights to look a little bit distinct from the red body of the car. This particular one has kind of fog lights and spot lamps in the bumper section as well, so just getting a bit of silver on those. And obviously the wraparound indicator. I've yet to find an easy way around this. It is just small brush, small amount of paint and patience. Yeah, just applying the orange for the indicators now. For those of you that are interested in that sort of thing, the paint I'm using is Nitro Bonfire Orange, which is quite a nice indicator colour. Move round to the rear. There are the indicators on the back. And then there's a long reflective strip across the back of the tailgate. Oh, this is a bit of additional work here that I decided to go for. I'm building a little diorama. And at the moment I'm slavering plenty of some stuff called bacon bond, which helps the polymer clay stick to the wood. So I'm just skinning the wood with polymer clay now to form a street scene. The idea is to make a little diorama. Several points during the very end of the show in the last season, they come to what really is the edge of their reality, and everything in the distance is just a kind of a starscape. And the plan here with this is to make it look like the starscape and like they've run out of road. I'm just shaping up a little bit of pavement in one corner of the diorama. Just using a 6-inch engineer rule to space out my paving slabs. Set elements I do enjoy, this little bit of sculpting and model building. And I just thought it was quite apt for this one. This is a texture stamp. It doesn't show up particularly well on this angle, but it's given the road a bit of a tarmac look. And you simply push it into your soft clay, leaves the texture behind, pick it up, start again. Not difficult, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. So these are the two sides of the diorama that are going to be my little starscape. And I'm just going in with a bit of deep blue here, and building up my kind of midnight sky look. The middling grey tone there. Because as you all know, the night sky is not one colour. I've gone in with a bit of black, and now I'm using a method where you put some white paint into your brush and you literally blast it onto a lollipop stick. That causes spatter, and the spatter causes my star field. And then just put a few little bits of highlight in and give the impression of light in the heavens. And a bit of extra spatter there. So back to my street scene now, colouring up the tarmac. In with a bit of silver metallic to start with, and then I'll give it a black wash. I give it the kind of wet tarmac look when it's all done. I'm doing the same thing as I was doing with the Starscape, but just giving it a few speckles of black and white into the tarmac area, but I've this time using the bristles on a stiff brush, blotting out a bit of excess spotting here and there that you can see starting to build up. To the pavement now, grey wash to start with. And then just using a micro brush and dragging along the cracks in the pavement to give it a bit of colour. And as you can see, I'm filling in all the cracks on the pavers now, on the curbstones. A quick dab over, gets the excess off, smears it out a little bit, sort of all adds to the texture of the thing. Just keep dabbing away until you're kind of happy with the look of it. These things you're never finished. You'll always go back in and find another thing, another thing, another thing. You always sort of, in the end you go, oh okay, enough's enough. So here's the completed car. Thought I'd show it on the turntable to begin with, just so that you could have a little look at the work that had been done, the interior painting, exterior, switching over of the steering wheel sides and so on, because I decided to use the diorama that I'd built at the end of the video for my little Ashes to Ashes tribute, I suppose you'd say. I pinched a bit of audio from the show and recorded my own little tribute here, so I hope you like it.
See you around, Bollycakes.
Goodbye, Gov.
I've been Hellboy59 and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Bye.